This episode of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast is brought to you by MG Schlachter, a built environment and architectural consulting firm with an in-house production team. Delivering support services in the retail, hospitality, and residential sectors for leading brands worldwide, MG Schlachter is reinventing, something near and dear to my heart, of course, architectural support services. So look, let's say you're a worldwide fashion retailer and your new business plan calls for opening 450 new stores around the world this year. Or say you're an architecture firm and in order to grow, you need to staff up quickly to produce detailed drawing packages for your new winning project. Or dig this. Let's say you're a national hospitality brand who's putting together a new line of boutique hotels and you've got to produce a massive amount of graphics, such as custom artwork, posters, or slide decks, both in digital and print. MG Schlachter serves architecture and interior design firms, retailers, construction companies, graphic designers, and brand managers. And with the way they're reinventing architectural support services, they offer production and strategic consulting. Their in-house production team understands the importance of accuracy and precision and can demonstrate the utmost care throughout the drawing and delivery process. And on the consulting side, their team consists of architects and international design consultants with many years of experience in design and construction. Suffice it to say that whatever built environment or architectural project you're working on, MG Schlachter can step in and help accelerate your growth. So, if you're looking for a built environment and architectural services firm with an in-house production team to help you reinvent your next project, check out MG Schlachter. Find them on the web at mgschlachter.com. That's mgschlachter.com, mgschlachter.com. Yo, hey Reinventionistas. I'm excited to bring you this week's episode with Casey Onder, where we're talking life coaching. Casey's got a great story of how she pivoted out of the corporate world, had to take a break, went on her Eat, Pray, Love tour, as she says, and dropped back in and decided to dive into entrepreneurship and start her life coaching business. I can't wait for everyone to hear this episode, but before we get there real quick, I just wanted to thank everyone who came out to the launch house recently for the Master Your Medium panel. So I was one of the panelists there, along with Jen Rome of YCLE and Teresa Crockett of Sugar Bowl Creative. So Teresa is a video producer and Jen is a blogger, and I was representing podcasting. We had a nice panel, so there's three of us, and Jadia Quinn from the launch house was there, and she was moderating and asking us great questions, and hopefully we shared a bunch of experience and knowledge to the audience there, and it was really fun for me. It's my first panel that I did, and I was a little nervous doing it, but I think everything worked out okay, and people seemed to respond very well to it. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Lemire, who I talked to afterwards, Lemire and her son. So we got into it with more details in podcasting, and I showed her my setup that I had with me and everything. So she was appreciative to that and shot me a note afterwards. So thank you, Lemire. If I see you out there, hopefully I'll see you podcasting soon. We'll see. Anyways, thanks again, Launch House, and thanks to everybody who came. And also, Alexis Edelman was there, and he runs a video production company, and he was there videotaping the panel. So I know that will be coming out at some point, maybe posted on the Launch House website, or perhaps on YouTube. When I get a link for it, I will let everyone know and probably shoot it out on the Facebook page. Okay, I'm ready for Casey. Are you ready for Casey out there? Hello? Ready for Casey out there? Hello? Okay. You don't have to answer out loud. It's all right. But I'm ready for her. So let's figure out what this life coaching thing is all about.
Welcome to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit jimreinventionrevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, Jim.
Hey everybody, this is Jim, and welcome to episode 52 of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today with Casey Onder, and we're talking life coaching. So Casey, welcome to the revolution.
Hi, Jim. It's wonderful to be here. I'm very excited, and I'm excited to hear what we're going to what we're going to talk about because I have no idea right now.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I guess I'm the guy to ask the question. So thanks for being here, first of all. Thanks for reconnecting. We had a little false start about a week ago. We weren't sure we were going to do this, but so we were just chatting and doing some other things. But thanks for coming back. But anyways, my first question for you, and this is, really sort of, I'm really curious about this, is how tall do you have to be a life coach?
At least 6 foot.
At least 6 foot.
If you're a woman, if you're a man, it has to be at least 6'8". I'm
okay. So, all right. She knows why I bring this up, everybody. But for people listening out there that can't see us right now or whatever, tell them what that question is for.
I am. It's debatable whether I'm 6'3" or 6'4". Depends on the time of day.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously anyone can be a life coach at any height.
Oh, there's no requirement?
No, there's no requirement.
Okay.
I just happen to fall into the life coach category.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring it up was I was looking at some of your content, and I really appreciate your sort of take on it and attitude of being a tall person, tall woman in particular.
Yeah.
And what's your phrase about you want to, inspire people to stand up straighter or something like that in life in general?
Yeah.
Maybe women in general, right?
Yes. So there's kind of a parallel theme of what I'm doing in my work and what I've done working on. This is more personal than I was planning, but I'm open about sharing it, is my own body image and sort of how I present to people in the world. And I know there's a lot of work around women's empowerment and things like that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Women kind of like standing up in their strengths and not hiding. And I've done work on that being a very tall woman. But then also in my career and in my life choices, starting to be more authentic and, kind of presenting myself as I am rather than trying to fit into someone else's ideas of what success or, value are.
Right. Oh, well, it makes sense. And I think just the farther you get into life, I think the more you have to really embrace who you are and your unique qualities and all those kinds of things where, you're kind of still figuring it out when you're younger and really you're kind of taking your cues from the larger society or the larger group. But as you kind of get into life, you got to realize who you are and what your skills are. And maybe that's why you've kind of, what's been attractive to you for life as in terms of becoming a life coach, for example. So maybe, it kind of goes hand in hand. You're learning about yourself. Maybe you've had some of your own challenges, but now you have this insight that you can help other people right deal with, right? So in thinking about that, tell me what life coaching is exactly, because I really don't have any idea. So I want to mention these couple episodes. I've had a couple other folks on, and I know what coaching is. I played sports in high school, so I know what like a sports coach is. And I've had on, if you guys remember, the people listening out there, episode 12 had Coach Ashir on. So he's an e-commerce coach, targeted business guy, knows drop shipping, and really cool dude. So check him out if you haven't listened to that episode. But so that makes sense to have that kind of coach. And on episode 31, I had Reza on, and he is into mindset performance training. And so he works with a partner specifically, and it's more psychological, more technical based, I think, ways of kind of opening up your mind and removing blocks, let's say. But I'm not sure it applies to life or larger things. So what's a life coach? What does that mean exactly? Or does it mean whatever your clients want it to mean? I don't know. Explain it.
It's a bit of both. So I'll say this as a caveat, first of all.
Okay.
The best way to understand what life coaching is to experience it.
Okay.
So that's why many life coaches, myself included, will offer free sample sessions, because it's an experience. And you don't really, it's like you can't read about something and not experience it and really know what it is.
Right.
But that being said, how I would explain life coaching, it actually is along the similar lines of, it sounds like somebody that you've interviewed before, is the removing blocks. So specifically with life coaching, and I do career and life coaching. I do a lot of work with people trying to make shifts in their career.
Okay.
But it's a matter of envisioning possibilities that you might not have been able to by yourself, and then removing whatever's blocking you personally, whether that's the story that you have in your head that you've grown up with, or whatever it is that's blocking you from making that happen. And a lot of times we're our own worst enemies, quite frankly, in making what seems to be impossible possible. Yeah. And that's really what life coaching is. It's helping people be leaders of themselves and then their own lives as well.
I see. So would you say that there's any particular area of people's lives that you focus on, or is it really more of a structure or a process? For example, personal finance might be one challenge for some, a particular individual, and they be like, I need some help with this. I'm completely disorganized and don't know what to do with it. I feel like my life's out of control, and they might think they need a life coach for their finances. Is that part of it, or is it a subset, or how do you think about like specific, areas where people might be attracted to having a coach for initially? Like, I know this part of my life is out of control, and I need a life coach for this, perhaps.
Yeah.
Do you take on those specific things, or tell me about how you get what the type of clients are, I guess, maybe that you work with. Yeah.
I'm most interested in people that are interested in shifting their careers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got
So I am trained to work with anything, and I've ended up working with relationships and some other all different.
I was just going to ask you about relationships. Does that fall under life coaching or not?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. I need a relationship coach. Yeah. I could probably use some, help there. Anyways, go on.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So the coaching process and coaching skill set, it's general purpose.
Okay.
It's, you could apply it to any kind of a problem.
Right.
That somebody's experiencing, or some lack of something that they're experiencing, or something that they want that they're not able to get.
I see.
For whatever reason. That said, many coaches will focus on a specific niche, mine being career and life success. So I call myself a career and life success coach.
Okay.
And, I have that focus because that's been a major pain point for me.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I got you. So you're like, hey, why is this so hard? Once you started to kind of crack the code for yourself, you thought, oh, okay, maybe you can help other people with it, right?
Right. And I actually have like my PhDs in people at work, and I've done career counseling, so it made a lot of sense for me to go into this area.
I see.
That being said, I love coaching people on anything. It's what we say in coaching is even like if you're experiencing executive coaching, it ends up being life coaching, because you can't address what's happening with a person in the boardroom or like in their work or anything without addressing things that are happening across all areas of their lives.
Right.
It all just kind of ties together.
It does. Yeah. I've kind of noticed that. Like I've taught some music lessons in the past from time to time. I'm a musician, get like younger people come to me, or even older folks. And the older folks are, to me, somewhat more interesting because, they have all these other challenges in their head that are different from just being a young person, like they have family challenges and wives and kids and all these other things and other sort of weird, things in their head that keep playing around. And when you're really trying to learn something new, you got to tap down the ego, or whatever you want to call it, that's in there, that's telling you that you can't learn something new or whatever. So it is a little bit about mindset and life coaching, even when you're just teaching someone how to do, jazz improv on saxophone or something like that, Not that I'm any expert at that, but I noticed that it's just part of the equation if you're teaching someone, anything almost. But you said a couple of things when you were talking about you're mentioning your education, and I want to circle back to that in a second, because I think it's important in terms of putting in context of the stuff that you're doing and what you can bring to the party. But first of all, I wanted to kind of talk about the larger sort of what's the right word? What's the right word I'm thinking of? I'll think of it in a second here. I can't think of the word now. Anyways, maybe we'll go back and edit the word in if I remember it. But anyways, there's sort of this thing out there lately over the last, I'd say, 5-8 years, that life coaching is kind of a thing now. It's sort of like a career thing, and a lot of maybe kind of younger people are even being life coaches or trained to be life coaches. Mm-hmm. And I think on the surface, people might think about that as well, it's a little confusing. You're 30 something and you're a life coach. Like, what do you know about life? It's
Right.
not like you've been married and had a couple kids and gone through a divorce or maybe you have at 30. I don't know, but maybe you don't have the life experience to actually do life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first of all, what do you think about that, and why do you think that's a thing now, in terms of just sort of today's digital life or whatever? And then we'll talk about your education. So go ahead.
So I do think there's legitimacy in seeking out a coach that has personally experienced the same issues that you're going through or that you want coaching on, because that person's going to be able to have more empathy and a deeper understanding of what you're going through and kind of what needs to happen for you to get to the next place. I would say, on the other hand, don't automatically discount a coach that may be younger or not, no one's going to be exactly like you, right?
Right.
And coaching, sometimes actually the best coaching happens with somebody that they're so outside of that mindset or box that they're able to see the way out more easily. So it could go either way, I would say. Coaching is not advice. So it's not somebody telling you like, this is what you should do to solve your problem.
Right.
It's helping you, it's asking questions and leading you through a process that will help you to find the answers yourself. So they don't necessarily, the coach doesn't need to have your answers. They're facilitating a process that helps you generate your own answers.
I see. Ooh,
which
I
is
like
much
that.
more powerful.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the idea of counseling versus advice. Like, you're seeking counsel, you're seeking feedback, but you're the only one who probably can heal or right yourself is you, right? Once you kind of figure out what your blocks are, maybe you need this, different perspective that you're getting. But once you sort of see the perspective, it's really on you to kind of figure it out and teach yourself how to get out of this, jam that you're in, I would say, right?
Well, I would say the coach creates a space and an environment for you to have the insights and, frankly, the motivation and the accountability to get you on your way.
I see.
So it's not like you're figuring it out yourself. It's just that the coach isn't telling you what to do.
Right. I got it. So, well, thinking about that and thinking about, I always kind of use music as the analogy, I guess. And there's a couple of things that come to mind. So, when I've been teaching people, first of all, I learn a ton from the people I'm teaching. So that's kind of interesting. And you learn many different things from all the different ages that you teach, because they have different insights, they have different experience from you. So it kind of jives with what you're saying in terms of, you might want to have maybe 2 or 3 different coaches, one that really has a lot of life experience and maybe a younger one, because maybe you're trying to shift careers. Like you said, it's about a career situation. And you're like, you know what? I need to know what a 26-year-old is thinking and how they think and how they look at these new technologies I have to deal with, or the world as they see it. And it's really going to be impactful for your career. And you're only maybe 34 or something. It's like, it's very interesting kind of dynamic to kind of figure out for yourself, I guess, in terms of having the vision or where you want to go. But having said that, so that's a kind of a cool thing just to kind of get that out there, where people think when you say life coaching, it's like they think that the coach themselves have to have all the answers and all the experience. And that's not, I don't think that's really the case, like as you said. But having said that, you do have this educational background that's very interesting in terms of now that you're pivoting and being a life coach. So I want to see if I can get this right. So I was looking at your stuff online here, and it says you have a PhD in industrial organizational psychology.
That is a fact.
Yes. So what does that mean? And what field does that prepare you for? Like when you go into that, is that's not clinical psychology, it's industrial organizational psychology. So what is that?
Yes. It's quite a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
So we call it, for short, it's called IO psychology. And it's basically the study of people at work.
Okay.
And it's, we do, just for some concrete examples of what IO psychologists do, they help companies design systems to select employees that are going to be the best fit for the company and going to perform the best.
I see.
There's leadership development some IO psychologists will do. It's basically how to select and manage the workforce in the most optimal way for the company's goals.
Okay.
That's what IO psychologists research and apply if they're working for the company itself.
I see.
Yeah.
So is the normal track, like when you get a degree like that, would be to work in the corporate world, like a large corporation that has to hire lots of people and deal with those kind of human resource issues? That's the logical track, I guess.
Yep. It's like the research wing of a human resource department or talent management department.
Oh, okay.
Usually. But IO psychologists also do, like I was doing consulting, so
Okay.
it could be
Sure.
external as well.
Well, let me ask you one question about that. In terms of, maybe you're closer to this, how you see things these days. There's a lot of, I guess, artificial intelligence algorithms and all these things out there that, if you're applying for jobs and writing a resume, and I think some of this process is more automated these days. Is that something that you give insight into people of how to, or a corporation, how to design their algorithms, for example, of, what to look for? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we crunch data to figure out, what are the key differentiators of people that, again, will be successful or not. I know there's like companies doing things with like eye tracking and interviews and like being able to pick up on traits that are important for selection without even asking an interview question.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's
really
interesting. A little creepy, I guess, but interesting. I think it makes sense because as everybody gets a little bit smarter and the internet's out there and all these software systems are available, et cetera, they're on the one side, the company side, I guess, is you can be more sophisticated in how you select people, but then on the individual side, people are getting better at like, well, I know what they're doing. I'm going to drop in the right keywords onto my resume, and so I can come to the top.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Right?
Oh yeah, tons of faking. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So is that something you've been kind of trained to deal with or figure out or something with the algorithms? Or
I didn't work in selection, so I did work in selection, but I was doing executive selection, so interviewing, in-depth interviews and selection processes for very few candidates. So I wasn't working as much with the large-scale selection systems.
I see.
In my work. Yeah,
I gotcha. Interesting. So let's dig back a little bit now that we're talking about your background a little. You started out, you got this degree, and you go into industry, and you're working with these candidates and executives and such. And what did you think about it? And what was your experience of it?
I think it's a really interesting area.
Okay.
It wasn't, I really enjoyed developmental assessments. So assessments that are, for literally in the interest of developing or increasing the leader's aptitudes as they move to a new position or whatever it is. Didn't love, I don't love doing it as like, this is like judging the person so like the company knows whether they're the best fit or not, because at that point you're it's almost like you're trying to measure the person in a way that you're ultimately providing data on whether that person is a good fit or not. And to me, I'd rather like help people. So it wasn't, not that it wasn't helpful for anyone, but it wasn't, I was more aligned with the decision-making process than developing the candidate that I was assessing, if that makes sense.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a tough situation to be in. I think and I've done a bunch of consulting myself, so I kind of understand the corporate sort of mindset of, they want an expert to come in, really guide them and, give them the right answer, basically. Right. Because they're really on the hook with their shareholders and everybody's very visible what you're, especially hiring a CEO. It's like, you should get this right, guys, Right. Because it says something
very
about the larger culture and company if you don't get it right. But at the same time, you're right. It's like, you can't predict the future. You don't know what the fit's really going to be. You can have some indicators, but all they are is indicators. They're not, they're just not going to tell the future. So yeah.
I mean, our role was to provide additional data from, with our training and expertise to provide that external data source to the company. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing that, but it sounded like you weren't so into kind of making those judgments and looking at those indicators. So what was the next step after that? Like, how long did you do that, and why did you decide to move on?
So I was in that role for a couple of years and knew that it wasn't going to be like long term.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually just had a couple of moments. There were some changes that happened internally where I was working. I had some experiences with people outside of my work and that were kind of a wake-up call for me. Because I just, basically I knew I wasn't a great fit, but I didn't know where to go from there because I had trained so extensively to be able to fill a position like that.
Right.
That the path out of that was not clear to me. And I wasn't in I was working in the suburbs, I wasn't in a big city. I mean, Cleveland's not a big city anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in the suburbs of Cleveland and I was just like, I don't know what to do. And so at that point I had enough savings that I said, I need to take some time off and take some space for myself and figure out what comes next.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So was there any like particular breaking point or you just thought, after that last client, you're like, I got to get out of here or whatever, like what was really the thing that pushed you? Because I think that's part of what's interesting to me is how people decide or what pushes them or what the motivation is to really change or start their own reinvention. How do you get started on it? Because that sounded like it was the start for you, right?
Yeah. So it was a very small company I was working with, and the other consultant quit, and I was so overdue. Like I had already intended
Okay, so you
to
were
leave.
thinking about
Yeah, I was already thinking,
right.
but I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know when.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know when this was going to happen. So,
there's never the right time or the best time.
There
right?
isn't. Yeah, like there was no.
I was waiting for the best time to quit. Like, well, there isn't one, right?
Right. It's just like at some point you're ready. And I was sort of past due for it, and I didn't want decisions to be made about the direction of what we were doing or projects based on me being there. And that was kind of a critical thing for me. I was like, I don't want to, I don't want to get embroiled into this reorganization if I'm not going to be here. That doesn't feel good to me.
Okay.
Good for anyone. So that was a point. And also I met somebody outside of my work who sort of shifted my mindset on some things. I wasn't working with a coach at the time, but it was just somebody who introduced me to some things I was to that point not as familiar with.
Okay. So at this point, do you have any idea or any thought about coaching or life coaching, or what, this isn't a good fit for me, I just need to get out of here and blow off some steam or whatever?
I actually knew I wanted to be a coach, and actually,
you did, even at this point.
Yeah, I chose because I have a background. Before I did IO psychology, I was actually in a counseling psychology PhD program.
Okay.
And I knew I didn't want to work with clinical populations.
Okay.
So I switched over to IO because I'm obsessed with work. So
okay. All right.
So that seemed like a natural transition.
Right. Had to get the PhD. Go for all those degrees. That's cool.
Yeah, so I switched from one PhD program into another within the same department. So super seamless,
nice.
Made sense. But I knew when I took the job doing executive assessment that I actually wanted to do coaching. The problem was, to be an executive coach, you really do that. I think that's when you need more experience, that's when you need to be like working a lot with leaders and sort of in that space for a long time. So it wasn't really, there was a big gap from where I was to getting to that point. And so I knew I wanted to get there faster.
Okay.
To do the coaching work that I wanted to do, basically.
Ah, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So you blow out of there, but what happens? You don't dive into coaching immediately.
No.
What do you do?
I did what I call my Eat, Pray, Love trip, although I did not know about the Eat, Pray, Love book or movie until after I had decided this.
Oh, looking back, you're like, oh, that's what that was.
Well, my friends told me. So I told my friends what I was doing, and they were like, oh, you're doing Eat, Pray, Love. And I was like, what? I was like, I did not. I thought I was original, but
right.
Yeah. So I was in India and France. Okay. And then I went to Japan, Vietnam, Cambodia. I've always had sort of like the travel hunger.
I see.
I've lived abroad a couple of times before.
Okay.
So this was just supposed to be me in the world, literally doing whatever I felt like for an extended period of time to get back in touch with myself and what I wanted. Because like coaching, even I wasn't sure about coaching, like how would I know?
Right.
That
you
was
don't
the
know
right
till you
thing.
get there, right?
Yeah. So I didn't know that. And I felt like so out of touch with myself at that point that I just needed to go exist. And that's what I did.
Right. That's, I like the way you stated that. I just needed to go exist.
Yeah.
So I think people forget this about themselves, and I know I've probably forgotten it about myself. At times, especially when I was working in the corporate world. I think the corporate world uniquely can do that to you, in a way, right? Because there's always another project. There's always the next quarter's earnings. There's it never ends. It never stops, and unless you decide to stop and get off that wheel for a minute and remember, oh yeah, I don't have to do this,
Right.
Am I choosing to do this or I'm not choosing to do this? Because it always feels better if you feel like you're choosing to do it.
Yes.
Right? That because some people love it and they choose to do it and they love the corporate world and that's cool. But, if you're not there or you're misaligned, it's not fun necessarily. So I like how you stated that, or you just needed to exist and find some time for yourself. And I think travel is one of the best ways to do that for yourself, kind of reinvent yourself, get different perspectives. I've been doing that myself the last few years. So tell me where you went in India, because I've been to India a couple years ago, actually for a work trip, believe it or not. I dropped into Mumbai, and I thought it was, it's just wild there, but I want to get your thoughts on it, because I was like, I'm thinking like, would I ever go back to India? Because it was such a mixture of crazy stuff relative to other places. There are plenty of other places that I'd want to get to in the world, but what did you think? Where did you go in India?
I was in southern India, Mysore, for the most part.
What is it called?
Mysore.
Mm-hmm. That's more southern than Bangalore too, I think, right?
Yes, it's with traffic, I'd give it 3 to 4 hours.
Okay, I gotcha. Why did you pick there?
Because in each of the places I went, I had some kind of agenda. India I was going to do yoga.
Oh, cool.
And Mysore is a big yoga town, basically. So it was perfect. I actually I met 2 people after I decided. I was kind of reaching out to the community in Cleveland, the yoga community, and I met 2 people that were actually going to Mysore.
Oh,
so
cool.
It was it was just kind of a natural fit.
Right.
But I was looking at different areas of India too.
Okay. So you did a lot of yoga when you were over there. What's it like doing yoga in India? It must be amazing.
It is amazing. It's intense. I did.
Bet.
Yeah.
Super intense, I'm sure. You're like, what? Are they all really super good and limber and doing these crazy positions, or?
There are certainly those people.
Yeah.
I was not one of those people.
Are they all contortionists or something?
Oh man. I mean, there's people that are so advanced. You are where you are when you start. So I was very new. I was doing Ashtanga. I started, teaching myself Ashtanga right before I took the trip, basically.
Okay.
And then I jumped into KPJ, which is a really well-known, it's, the birthplace of Ashtanga, Mysore style yoga, and jumped into that, and I got schooled.
Well, I'm sure.
And then I did a little bit of traditional hatha as well, which is very different, but similarly intense for different reasons.
Wow. Yeah. That must have been a real mind-blowing experience, especially if you were familiar with yoga before you went. So it must have been like, wow,
Yeah. The yoga is practiced in the U.S. Was nothing like what I experienced there. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, I bet.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Maybe a little indulgent on my part, but I'm always curious for when people are traveling, and I'm just thinking about where I might go next and other people's, experiences of those places. So
yeah, I loved the chaos of India.
It is. It's completely chaotic.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre and chaotic, and it's hard to wrap your mind around anything you're seeing on a daily basis. But people are just going with the flow, and
Yeah, it's Mysore is easier to live in because there's a lot of Westerners there too. So
is there? Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I got a scooter. I did all the things.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so you're away for how long were you on the road for, traveling for, when you did this?
7 months total.
7 months. Okay, so that's a good chunk.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think the longest I've been away is about maybe 6 weeks, something like that. Yeah, but I like to kind of keep stretching it out next time I travel. But All right, so you get back, and are you ready to like dig back into work, or what did you come to some like real, clarity or realization at the end here?
It's interesting. The first thing I got clarity on was what I wanted to say no to.
I like that.
Yeah. So I got a really nice job offer traveling, just randomly from an old connection, and it was perfect on paper. It was perfect. And I just couldn't get I was so living for myself and literally pursuing exactly the things that interested me when I was abroad, that this job offer, it was very clear, it was night and day. I was like, I do not want this.
Even though it was like a perfect fit for you.
Yeah.
But did it represent kind of where you were trying to get away from, though? Like kind of the life that you're trying to get away from?
In some ways, and in some ways not. It was a startup. There were all these attractive things about it. And for some reason, my body, I could just tell. I just
really?
couldn't.
Okay.
It was like a food that I could not bring myself to eat. That's how I would describe it.
Interesting. Okay.
And I was really upset, but then I was like,
but you knew intellectually, but man, this is a great
Exactly.
opportunity, right? This could be smoke, and this could really change my life.
Yes.
But you were listening to your gut.
Yes, I was listening to my gut.
Oh, man. Okay.
Which is really new for me.
All right. Oh, okay.
With career decisions. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's true, because, right, you've been, maybe up until this point, you've been more intellectually focused. You're going through school. You're worrying about grades and all that kind of stuff.
All brain. Yeah.
Yeah, achieving and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. Well, this is good. So it's opening up a new path in you, I guess, right?
Yes. And it was very uncomfortable and scary.
Right.
But I was like, obviously the way I was making decisions before about my career are not working. So
yeah, right.
I knew,
it didn't get you to the place you wanted to
exactly.
be, I guess.
So I had to start following my intuition, because that was the only thing that was giving me accurate indicators.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So you turn down that thing and you come off the road. How are you broke now? What do you do next?
I wasn't broke.
Okay.
I was more broke than I expected.
All right.
I got
that's a long time to be away without any, income happening.
India, some of these places are very cheap.
Right?
Yeah. France was expensive for me. Yeah.
Right.
But that's another story. So I was not broke. I was significantly less wealthy. I knew because of some of the experiences I had abroad, health-wise, spiritually, everything, I just knew I couldn't go back to living out of my truth, so to speak. So I knew I wanted to do coaching. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I started preparing to do that. So I enrolled in an online coach training, and was sort of I was like, I already have a PhD. I don't need much, to get started. I tried.
That's very interesting, right?
Yeah, I was like, I should be able to do this. No
Right.
problem. And so it became apparent that I would need more, not need, but it would be to my benefit,
Right.
to invest in myself more,
Yes.
to make myself a more powerful coach, and just get things moving more quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I after that, I enrolled in probably the most expensive training program in New York City. So that's what I'm enrolled in now.
I see.
Yeah.
And would you mind mentioning that for other people that might be interested out there? Or
Sure. I'm in accomplishment coaching.
Okay.
It's a smaller program, but they have branches in different major cities in the U.S. At this point, I chose New York because that's the one I was exposed to first, and I get a reason to go to New York once a month. Yeah, I've had very positive experiences so far.
Okay.
You get your own coach is one of the main differentiators of the program.
I see. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long of a program is that? And do you mind giving out sort of like a range? Is it $1,000, $100,000, somewhere in between?
It's between those two things.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable, talking about pricing speaking on behalf of the program.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
But
You
I'll
can find
say
it
that
online out there, but okay.
it's not cheap.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And how long is the program? Something like that?
It's a year.
It's a year? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not major commitment that you got to go back to a 4-year degree or something that you're
No.
looking for, but...
but it's very intense. I would say that.
Okay. Gotcha. Right. Very good. Well, you know what? I think it's very, like you mentioned before, you were trained specifically in this one area. You have this PhD, it's the highest level of education in that field. But I think it's very good, great self-awareness, understanding but yeah, I know a lot there, but I'm not the best here or whatever. I really still need to fill in my my background if I'm going to do this pivot or this career change, right?
Right.
Even though you're super, that's why I want to talk about your educational background, because I think, again, with age or whatever, people are thinking that you have this breadth and depth to you, and this life experience, but also the educational breadth and depth that I think really makes you an interesting choice. I would say, I guess, as a life coach, because it's like, you can lean on these other experiences
Right.
and just training that you've had. So pretty cool.
Right.
All right, so you're in the middle of this program right now. When's the program end, or
Next February.
next February?
Yeah.
But are you coaching people now, taking
Yes.
clients now still?
Yes, I am, and that's
Okay.
part of the program. They have you doing it.
Oh, I
pretty
see.
much
Okay.
Immediately. Yeah.
All right, very cool. So, and speaking about that, you were mentioning before. So you're taking clients, and you said you're also working on some programs or some kind of offerings that you're putting together.
Yes.
What does that entail?
So I am developing a program for people who are in the position I found myself in several years ago.
Okay.
So the way I think about it is that if I had a coach for my career issues like 10 years ago, because I probably shouldn't have gone to PhD, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I just thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Right.
If I had hired a coach, I would have, been on the right track so much faster. And so I'm developing a program for people that are in a position that I found myself in, which is they are successful on paper, but they feel trapped in the careers that they've created and
Right.
don't necessarily see a way out, or they're really scared of making the leap towards another thing. And so I'm creating a program specifically for those people that I'm really excited about to help them, again, remove the blocks to from where they are now to where they want to be ultimately, and kind of opening some doors for them to see how they can make their vision a possibility. And if they don't have a vision, we can create one together, because they have the raw material for that. They just don't realize it.
I see. Very interesting. I this resonated with me when you said I'm not the kind of person that maybe should have gotten a PhD or gotten that much
Yeah.
schooling, right? Because I always thought that about myself in a way, where it's like, I kind of went to college because my other friends were going to college, and
Yeah.
I thought it would be interesting. And honestly, I studied physics. I was a physics major. And I thought, well, if I'm going to college, I should probably be challenged and train my brain. And I just thought physics would be interesting to kind of figure out how to think or something. I mean, I was not going to college to get a job. I just didn't have that mentality at that point. And
Yeah.
it's like, some people were super focused, like I'm going to be an accountant or whatever. I had no idea what my career would be. And I thought, well, if I'm going to college, it should be challenging, and I should learn something, like learn how to learn, or just whatever, develop myself. It was more for development, I thought, in my mind.
Got it.
And then I just happened to go, once I got the degrees, I still didn't know what I was going to do. You can get a job with a physics degree, but I thought, oh, well, if I get into grad school and somebody pays for it, I'll go, because I have nothing better to do.
Right.
What am I going to do with my life? I still don't know. And so I went because I got this, scholarships and stuff for grad school. So I went to grad school, and then I, finally figured out maybe I should get a job and make some money. But there was no other thought about it. There was no other big counseling back then.
Yeah.
And the people that I talked to, and I specifically remember this to this day, and my dad was a principal. So he was an educator. He was in the school system. People knew who I was. And I remember being at our high school, and the counselor talking to me, because I think you were in 10th grade or 11th grade, and you were supposed to meet with your counselor, right? And they were asking me, if I was, well, what are you thinking? Are you going to go to college? Are you going to do this? And it's like, in order to make those decisions and think about it, I've already had to decide this, honestly, a year and a half ago. They were so behind the curve, and they were so sort of narrow-minded or narrow of experience, I think. And they're like, oh, well, for you should go to Ohio State, because they would funnel you to these schools without any broader thought about who you were or whatever. The counseling was not very good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better now, but not. My experience wasn't good. So it's funny that you say that, and I've seen that in a lot of my other contemporaries, friends. I have a few friends, that have gone to law school that I think they should have never gone to law school.
Right.
They didn't like law.
Right.
They went because they were good students.
Right.
And they could do it. But just because you can do it doesn't mean you're going to be happy or it's going to resonate with you or you're going to be good at when you get out.
Right.
Because you really have to have the passion for what you're doing instead of just this craziness of you need to get an advanced degree or whatever for society purposes or whatever it might be.
Right.
Anyway, so it really resonated with me in terms of, finding the right path earlier. And that sounds like what your program is out there trying to do, right? Right.
And one thing I have to, the caveat of my program is I'm not a vocational counselor. So a lot of people, they want an answer, like this is what I should do with my life. And for me, I think there is an experiential component. Like you have to just try things. But I think the issue is for a lot of people, they're not actually doing it from a place of choice. They're doing it from a place of I should do this. This is my obligation. My place in the world is to be this way. And if they're not that way, they try to fit themselves into a certain mold. I see. So it's like square peg, round hole. They keep pushing. It's not fitting, but they don't know any other way to approach decision making and career stuff in their life.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, I look forward to when you get so is the program released or are you working on it right now?
I'm working on it. I'm actually, I'm interviewing people right now to figure out exactly what I want it to look like.
I
Just
see.
people that have been in this situation.
And when you get it, maybe you haven't thought about this yet, but when you get it together, is it going to be something that you offer personally within your coaching or something that would be online, or how do you think about it?
It's one-on-one coaching.
One-on-one coaching. Okay.
Yeah. This is
cool.
This is for people with major career
Right.
crisis going
I'm in
on.
crisis. I need help.
Yeah.
What am I doing with myself? Like
Right.
They wake up with that one morning and they can't quit maybe because they have, families and kids or whatever their situation is, but they know that they've crossed that bridge in their mind. I'm in crisis. Right. Oh my God, I need to change, but I have no idea how to do it or whatever, right? Okay.
Yep.
Good. Okay, that's good to know. Because, what I was thinking about is kind of maybe thinking ahead a little bit. There's a few questions I always like to ask people when they come on the podcast, and one is about technology. So I was thinking about online, like the stuff that you do. Obviously, people can find you if you have a website, et cetera, which we'll talk about. Like you can hand that out later if you want. But you could do this online, or you could do it over Skype, and all those kinds of technical things you can do, or create this program that you could just offer as a download or automated course, et cetera. How are you thinking about the technology and the role of technology that it plays in people's lives now, in terms of maybe on the business side of developing your own business aspects, but also in the coaching side of, is it a challenge for a lot of your clients or people that are trying to shift and pivot in terms of dealing with new skills or new technical skills they might need to develop?
It hasn't really been a challenge for the clients I've worked with. If anything, the internet has opened up, kind of the world of possibilities to people of like, oh, my life could look like something else.
Right.
So I think that's very exciting. It's also very paralyzing if you're not sure what you want to do.
Right.
So I use technology personally as a tool for my coaching. I do most of my coaching over Zoom. Okay. I've used Skype as well. It's a means to an end for me. My clients are mostly, early-ish in their career, like 30s would be like my ideal client. So if they're not using technology, they probably should be.
Probably should be, right? Yeah, exactly.
Everybody blames technology for ruining our quality of lives, but it's actually, the fact of the matter is there's an interaction of like human nature with technology, and there are ways of using technology as a tool, and there's ways of being at effective technology.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm on the side of, it's an amazing time. Technology is amazing. I mean, you have to kind of use it the right way. They're just tools, but the possibilities that these tools give us now, it's incredible.
Cool.
If you really think about it, right?
Yeah.
Just like everybody who's listening to this podcast right now, like this is amazing, right? You can hear these conversations. Right. You can hear this, counseling, or someone's, lean on someone's experience who's maybe done something that you're trying to do, just like we're sharing here of how to pivot or how to change careers or what helped open your mind, like traveling, etc. I mean, it's really a pretty amazing time to really just dig into all this stuff and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So speaking about that, in terms of the mindset stuff, and now that you've kind of made your own pivot, and now you're helping other people maybe pivot and figure out what they're going to do next. How do you keep your mind open now that it's been open? Do you find yourself kind of getting in ruts still, or falling back into old ways of thinking? How do you continue to keep your mind open, especially when kind of the world keeps changing and you got to figure this thing out on a daily basis now, it seems like?
Yeah. Well, being in coaching helps.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll say that.
I mean, that's your role now, to like help other people keep their mind open. But it's a funny thing of just being a human.
Yeah.
You can always get locked into your own behaviors, right? I mean, that's
yes.
just human nature by definition.
I think honestly, it's an interesting question, because I feel like everything that I'm drawn to, coaching, yoga, meditation, learning anything, like I'm a very curious person, really boils down to mind opening, and being more self-aware and conscious. So when we're able to step back and see what's playing in our heads, how our bodies, like even like how we are in our bodies, that helps us to see a wider spectrum of options of how to behave or how to choose things, or anything in any given situation. So that self-awareness component and that being open to me is kind of a key part of my life. So in terms of how I do that, I'm in coaching. I'm not only providing coaching, I'm in coaching. I think that's really important.
Okay, great.
I think, coaches that are in coaching are going to be better coaches, frankly.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then I still have a yoga practice. I'm working through some injuries, but hopefully that's going to continue to grow. I have been thinking about offering some meditation workshops as well.
Okay.
And that helps me to keep fresh on my own.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've even done like it's almost like how to apply the same meditative skills in the world as I'm, interacting with people or whatever. I'm actually working on that right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge. It never goes away. I mean, that's an interesting thing. I mean, the first thing is to kind of be that observer and realize, aha, those were crazy patterns or crazy behaviors, or I did have a closed mind or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to continue to kind of somehow be the observer. I guess that's why meditation helps or yoga helps in like realizing, but that's not me. That's my behavior.
Right. But it's also, I would just make that, it's not like you're always, some people fall into the pattern like, it's something I have to work at all the time and I'm never going to get any better. But it should be like a muscle.
No, yeah, right.
Yeah, it should be like a muscle you're developing. And as you, like a book that I've been reading is called The Last Word on Power. The Last Word on Power. Okay. And it talks about like, what is the strategy you've used your whole life to be successful?
Okay. Interesting.
And being able, it's hard at first to kind of get your mind wrapped around that, because you're you're like a fish swimming in water where you can't see the water, right? Like that's just the way the world is.
Right.
And once you're able to step outside of that, so much opens up. And I do think you will see progress, and you'll have more and more insight and more opening and more power as you continue to develop that capacity, I guess.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Trying to look at yourself and try to figure out, why have I been successful, or what are my core traits or core behaviors that it boils down to of how I get to be successful. Like I know for me, like when I'm challenged and I feel like I'm failing or whatever, and I don't know what to do, my mindset goes to, well, I just have to work. I just have to work harder.
Right.
That's kind of my secret, I guess, for myself, where it's like I get super frustrated. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing and whatever. And I realize, well, there's no shortcuts. I have to actually work harder. And so then I better go buy a book. I better watch a course. I better find a teacher. I better whatever. I got to get better. That's kind of my maybe secret. I don't know if that's a secret or not. Maybe that seems obvious to people or what, But I always think that it's something about me, which it's taken me a while to learn that. Because I think your natural reaction is it's like, oh, it's
something wrong with me.
Something something. No, some it's about the company, or it's about this, or it's about the opportunity I didn't have, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
But it's really about I just need to work harder, or I need to connect with the right people, or whatever it is. But that's it's interesting thought. Maybe I'll have to explore that a little bit of in myself, or maybe some other guests that come on. That's cool insight that you had there. Anyways, okay. So speaking of insights and revelations, is there, through your journey so far here, is there a reinvention revelation that you can share with people, something that you really didn't know about yourself, or the business of coaching maybe that you were jumping into, that you figured out now along the way that you wouldn't have, maybe predicted, or something that really kind of has stuck out to you, so far?
Yes. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah. So I did not realize that my career issues didn't occur in a vacuum. So I thought it was like, my problem is work. That's my problem.
Right.
And after having been in coaching and just some of the things I've experienced since then, it's like, actually, I have a tendency. So my reinvention is, how do I be myself in different situations and allow that to happen, rather than trying to figure out what the rules are, figuring out how to play the game and how to fit into that.
Ah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, because I have this issue with authenticity, right? I'll show up very differently in different situations.
Okay.
And I never feel good. And I did the same thing in my career. I was trying to be someone else,
right?
So that I could be successful. And the shift for me is, how do I be myself and leverage that, rather than being successful and then 20 years from now I can be myself, being myself now,
right? And
then using that to lead to my success. It's like a complete paradigm shift for me. So, and I'm doing that not only in my career choices now, but in my everyday interactions. And it's hard because I'm so used to doing the other thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, it's a good way to put it, because the more authentic and aligned you are, no matter what you're doing, I think you're going to be happier and more successful doing it, because it's really you.
Right.
And, when you're uniquely you, and you actually have something of value that you developed within yourself, it's like,
right,
who can compete with that?
Right.
You're going to be successful. Just by definition, because you've created value. That's who you are. You almost can't you almost can't lose at this point if you're totally aligned like that.
Yeah.
Where before, you're sort of misaligned, and you're kind of trying to meet other people's expectations all the time.
Right. You can lose in the sense of you can fall down, right? You can get bruised and kicked over, but it's the energetic advantages of doing things that actually drive you are, unlimited, really.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is, when you do get knocked down, it's you can't blame the environment, right? At that point,
right.
You're okay, so you take responsibility for your actions at that point, which is huge. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, Casey, it's been great having you on the show. I really enjoyed digging into some things with you here today, so it was really cool. Thanks for sharing and sharing all your personal stuff. It's just great for people to hear about, great for me to explore, just great for people that are listening out there. If people are interested in following up with you, or interested in exploring life coaching, or just want to get to know you a little bit more, where would you send them? What would be the best way to get in contact with you?
So my name is pretty unusual, so you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Casey Onder. I'm sure you have the spelling for them.
Yep.
And
it'll be in the show notes. Name and all that stuff, right?
Perfect. So that'll be in the show notes. Okay. And I also have a website for Clevelanders, specifically worklifecle.com.
Okay.
So they can schedule a sample session or whatever, contact me through that. Those are the two things. And I'll say, you might be about to ask this, but I am interviewing for this career program to understand people that fit into this description.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to get the language and get, I know my story, and I've talked to other people, but I want to collect more data, basically. So I would be super happy to talk with people that want to talk about their careers with me. And I'm offering free sample sessions for coaching to give people a flavor of what coaching actually is.
I see. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So if people out there listening think they need something or interested in exploring it, I would say, I think that's a place to start because, I think people, they don't want to admit that they need anything necessarily sometimes, if you're too proud or you're super successful in your career and it's hard for you to think about changing and being that student again. But if you're interested in exploring, that's how I would encourage people to reach out and find you at, what's your website again?
Worklifecle.com.
Worklifecle.com. Is that also the good place to go to connect for this information that you're looking for?
That would be just, you can find me either way. Yeah,
okay.
But you can reach me on social media. And then also I'll just give my email directly. It's casey.onder@accomplishmentcoaching.com.
Okay. Very cool. Well, Casey, thanks again. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for listening to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com. See you next time. And remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of. Hey, revolutionaries, if you enjoyed today's episode and today's guest, let them know by commenting on their Facebook page, finding their Twitter handle or Instagram feed, and letting them know you heard them on Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, and tell them what you got out of the episode, what you really liked, or how they inspired you. I know they would get a kick out of it, and will help others find the same value that you found.